I'm back. How's everybody doing today? So, I'm going to start another piece. Something a little different. We'll see how it goes, and yeah, that's about it. I hope everybody's doing well. So first I'm going to start off by taping off my border. Because, I want that nice white border around the outside. I'm just using painter's tape. I find that it works the best for my needs. It's great because the markers and the ink doesn't go underneath it and doesn't ruin the border around. If you don't have painter's tape, masking tape works fine. Scotch tape's a little sketchy because it doesn't stick down as well, so you might run into some issues with Scotch tape. Yeah, so you might run into some issues with that, with the paint or the marker seeping underneath the tape because it's not sticking completely. Yeah. Painter's tape's relatively inexpensive. You can get the cheap stuff for like I think it's called Do It Best or something. Those rolls are pretty cheap. But yeah, like cheap masking tape isn't going to be a big problem. So I'm going to do some more like cells, I guess. It seems to kind of work. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to kind of put down what I think works. Maybe something a little different like this. Let's see, what else? Let me see here. Maybe a cell that's really thin like that. I don't know. I'm kind of when I look at doing these little cells, I'm like looking at, what's interesting. What's going to be cool to look at. That's pretty much how I'm putting it down. And I don't know if I want to go with too many cells, because then it can get kind of too much or too little, but I think this will work for what we have. Uh-oh. So that didn't kind of work like I wanted it to. I was going to pretend to spill that and you'd all go, oh my God, he spilled it. But yeah, it didn't really do what I wanted it to. But I'm going to kind of use this to my advantage. The reason I did that was because I have spilled before on my artwork while I've been working on it and thought to myself, oh my God, I've ruined it. But the reality is it doesn't really ruin it. It just gave me another kind of cool thing to use when I was creating. These little spills have these cool little patterns, and I'm going to show you something interesting that you can do if you spill on something, piece of artwork that you're working on, how to kind of incorporate it into the whole. So for me, spilling on art is not a new thing, it's something I've been doing for a while. And it can be kind of fun and interesting. So I'm going to show you how that works. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll start off with like a thin marker or a pen, like those art pens that have a really thin tip on them. And that is the first part of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look for the shapes that I see and go around them with my marker. I'm just following going around the little drips and the shapes that are here. What's nice is they're random, or as random as you can get after spilling something on your page. And that's kind of the best part of it. It doesn't look like you purposely did it. I mean, in this case, yeah, I purposely did it, but you basically get where I'm coming from. So, you know. But yeah, you have all these little cool little splotches of juice. What this was basically, I had a little bit of leftover juice, and I was like, let's see what happens. So I don't know if you noticed right there, this marker is like a weird tipped marker. It's a Posca marker, but the tip is very fibrous, and sometimes when you're using it, it kind of the tip will kind of break a little and spray a little bit of dots out of it. I think a better marker to use would be one of those technical pens, because the tip is more hardened and it's not as fibrous as this one is, which is creating all these. See, it did it again right there and there. It's also the way I'm holding it, so sometimes that can be frustrating, but in this case I'm just going to kind of ignore it and see how we can go here. You know, because eventually I'm going to color in these areas with you know, some markers, and we'll see what happens. So maybe I can literally color over that issue. But it can be frustrating. And I noticed that with these little tipped Poscas, that is something that happens with them, is that they spread out, and you know, at some point they go and they kind of grab too much of the paper, and then they spit out little driblets, and it kind of just makes it harder to work with. That did it there too. Oh well. No need to bum out. This is something new that I wanted to do. I haven't done one of these in a while. I used to do a lot of these spill paintings, or spill drawings, just because they were easy. It's an easy way to kind of get going on a piece. Just take some liquid, you know, coffee's cool. Take a straw maybe, dump a little coffee on, blow the coffee around with a straw. Makes interesting patterns. It's just a nice way to kind of get started on something, and it also breaks down like literally the whole aspect of, you know, being scared to start a piece, not knowing where to go. But when you do like a spill or something like this, it's kind of started for you. You just trace around those little spill areas and create some interesting little patterns, and it can really work in your favor when you're starting off a drawing or a sketch. And yeah, it takes out the overwhelmingness of a white piece of paper when you're sitting there like, what am I gonna do? This thing's just, I don't know what to do. Spill something on it and start tracing around the spills. And then things start to happen. It's kind of, it's like a little cheat sheet, you know? So there we go. So I've gone around those areas. I think there's one over here too. And yeah. So that's kind of neat right now is it kind of looks like a map or a continent, a weird continent. And these are little islands or whatever, so it's kind of cool. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna start drawing some fatter lines like I do with the other pieces, to kind of break some of this up a little bit. this is really going to be more experimental for me. I'm not sure how it's going to work out because you have this really loose kind of, the drips are very loose against all the line work that's going to be more rigid. So I'm not sure how well it's going to connect, the two kind of shapes. But we'll kind of see. I actually might draw into these and see how that works. That's kind of neat, kind of interesting. Let's try. So now I'm just kind of doing the borders here. I like the black line around the little cells. I think it's kind of interesting. Makes everything locked in place and permanent. That it's, supposed to be like that. Kind of locked. That's okay. Yeah, this one I think is going to be a lot different because of that weirdness going on the inside there. But we'll see. So now I'm going to start putting down some colors. I'm going to start with orange because y'all know I love the orange. Actually, maybe. Alright, so I'm going to try something a little different here. I want to use this bad boy. It's like a big fat marker that I got kicking around. It's losing its ink, but I'm gonna try a little something with the highlighters I bought and see how that works out. Kind of curious. Sorry about the creepy, horrible noise. It's just part of the whole deal. Sometimes you put the lid on, you can shake the markers. It moves the fluid into the head. Not in this case, I guess. This thing must be super dead by this point. Might not be able to. Ooh, that's hurting. I might not be able to use this one, so let's see if there's another one I got here. This one's kind of probably dead too. Actually, no, it's a little bit better. All right, cool. First, the last time I used this, it was really bad, but I think maybe sitting for a little bit, the tip was able to sop up more of the ink in here, and that's not a bad thing. So, like I was talking before, I tend to go overboard, and I'm doing that now by coloring in the weird, places where the liquid had, hit the paper, and I traced it. So now I'm just kind of going over the top with the black on there. Which is interesting. I think what's going to happen is I'm not really worried about going outside of the lines on the black, just because later on I'm going to go around it with a different color. Kind of like how graffiti artists do their pieces on walls. And this is kind of cool too, because I purposely went around some of the areas. I'm not going into them. But like I said, back with the pieces, the graffiti art pieces. So generally how those guys do the pieces is that they do like a quick outline, and then they do their fill first. They fill in the areas, their fills. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing a thing called a fill. And if I go outside of that little, line, the lines they do first, it's not a big deal, because then they go back in with like a black or a color, and they go and do the outline really nice. So any place where you've gone outside of those lines, those guidelines, gets covered anyway by a marker, or by their spray paint. In my case, it'll be a marker that I'm going around those areas with, so it won't be it's not going to be distracting. It'll look much better when I'm done with it. So that's kind of interesting. All right, so now I'm going to go in with my orange and color in some areas with that. My orange pen has a little bit of black in it because it got mixed up with some black paint in the last couple videos I did, so it's kind of muddy looking. Not ideal, but yeah, I'm gonna work with it, see how it goes. Not bad. Sometimes those muddied areas can create some, interest, because it becomes more like this darker area has some kind of shadow effect to it almost. That creates depth too. I say that a lot when I'm talking of things create depth, but depth is a huge part of what I try to kind of convey in my art. So the reality is not in these drawings necessarily, but when I'm doing like abstract paintings and things of that nature, I'm trying to do shape and line and color in a way that creates depth, tension, those kinds of things. At some point, maybe I'll do a painting and show you guys, my abstract, how I approach an abstract painting, if there's any interest in that. But right now, the reason I'm doing these kinds of sketches is because they're easy. You know, when I have to set up for a painting, it's usually pretty big. It's a canvas. You know, I tend to do large art, and it's just a little bit more involved. You got your paint, you know, on your easel, and it's just a little bit more room that you have to do that. But with this, I can do it on a tabletop, and I'm using markers, and it's just a little bit more accessible at this point for me. And that's why I'm doing these. It's accessible, and the other thing about markers is that you have a little bit more control with the marker, which is cool. Control is nice, especially, you know, with paint, you don't always have tons of control. And I guess one of the more, so you don't have a lot of control, and sometimes that can be frustrating when you're trying to get a certain line or something to be perfect, because, you know, you got to be really steady with the paintbrush and things of that nature. With my abstract paintings, I tend to go kind of crazy with the paint when I apply it. It's something to watch, actually. It's pretty funny. But so yeah, I'm gonna keep going here. Try a different color. When I'm putting the colors down, I'm kind of like thinking in my head positioning for some of these. You know, this is less of a controlled chaos piece, because I'm kind of really showing you what's going on, and I am controlling it more than normal. Normal, I'm not, you know, most of those shorts I'm not talking through them. I'm just going, or, you know, which is nice. I don't have to explain what's happening. And so my stream of consciousness is more based in the art itself and not having to have this conversation. But I'm trying to make this a little bit more interesting for people maybe watching it. Also, you know, show you what I'm working on, kind of explain why I'm doing it. So I did choose like all these colors. These are more brighter colors. Kind of wanted this to be a little bit bright, kind of like the other pieces. That's another thing when I do paintings, they tend to be very, not bright, but more earth tones, like dark browns, brick reds, you know, rust colors. I really love how rust looks. So I tend to paint things that look rusty. There's just a really awesome beauty with rust in nature. I find it just is really just very beautiful. If I go to a junkyard and I see some rusty buckets or something like that, it's just really, it's an awesome, beautiful thing happening in nature, you know. Rust is very, you know, does its own thing. There's no, wherever that water's hitting, it's going to start rusting away, and depending on what kind of metal or iron or whatever it is, it's going to rust differently, and it creates these beautiful tones of reds and browns, and some rust even has like blue in it, which I find pretty amazing. I also like it when, you know, I find like a metal, like a container, for instance, like a boat container on a ship, like a ship container, and you see one of those and it's like corroded and it's rusting away, and the paint on it is kind of chipping, and the edges of the chips have like rust on them, and it's just like degrading. It's so nice. It's beautiful to me. I don't know why. I love it. It looks so awesome. So yeah, I mean, this is coming along nicely. This looks pretty cool. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like when I peel off the tape. So yeah, basically, I'm just gonna keep going, and I could basically talk through this whole piece, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think what I'm gonna do is end the video possibly here, and then come back and just show you guys what I came up with, and kind of explain how I got to that point. So yeah, so the whole deal with this is that I just wanted to show you that if you did, say, have a piece set up like this, and you were drinking your favorite drink and you knocked it over and spilled it, that those little spills can become art, can become part of the piece, and you'll create some cool stuff doing that. Once again, that's just kind of where I was starting, something to show you, something differently. Yeah, that's about it. What I'm gonna do is finish this up, and then I'll do another post showing you guys what I came up and kind of explain how it went. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks again for watching. I hope you guys enjoy these videos. I enjoy making them. I enjoy sharing what I do, and like ways that you can get into art. I enjoy it a lot. And that's it. So look out for the next video. Like, comment, subscribe. I think I said this before. If you guys have questions about something you're interested in art-wise, either if I know how to do it, I'll show you how to do it. If I don't know how to do it, I'll usually, like anybody, I'll look it up on YouTube, see how it's done, and see how I can make it happen. Other than that, have a great time. Keep being artists. Keep arting away, and just don't be too hard on yourselves, and enjoy it. Art's meant to be fun, and if you're not having fun, it's not worth doing. Have a great day. Bye-bye.